Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Louise Huber begins now.
Good evening. Hundreds have turned out in force demanding action against the national domestic violence crisis. Last year alone, more than 100 women were killed at the hands of someone they knew in Australia, with advocates ramping up calls for immediate change.
Gathering to highlight a heartbreaking reality.
In 2024, 103 more women have been killed by men in Australia. That's 103 lives stolen, mothers, daughters, sisters and friends.
Since January, 14 women have sadly been added to the tally. The community taking a stand. The message, simple.
Enough, no more, stop killing women.
The rally part of a nationwide movement to end violence against women, with organisers calling it a national epidemic.
Statistically, it is women, and overwhelmingly women, who are being murdered, and most often by men they know, in their own homes and sometimes in the eyes of their children.
Romany Wake is the daughter of Rachel Wake, who was brutally murdered by her former partner on Christmas Day 4 years ago.
It wasn't fair that I only got 19 years with my mum. I hate you for taking my mum away. I really want her back, please.
She's one of the many courageous advocators pleading for action, demanding stricter laws around domestic violence.
Like when after a few men died after one punch, they quickly created the one punch law, sentencing people to life in prison. But why isn't it the same with the murder of women and their children?
We hold the government to account for failing to implement real protection for women. We hold the court system to account for treating perpetrators with more sympathy than their victims.
A national wave of momentum that cannot be ignored.
To all the survivors, to those who still live in fear, we see you, we hear you, we stand with you, and we will fight for you.
Lily Thompson, 7 Tasmania News.
And if this story has caused any distress, you can contact 1800 RESPECT. The new Spirit of Tasmania berth at Devonport will be finished by the 2027 deadline or even earlier, according to the Transport Minister. That's despite there still not being a final design in place, as Labor laments a lack of visible action on the construction site, which is still bare earth.
This project's already 6 years delayed, but what's even worse is the lack of urgency in actually delivering it. Why aren't there people on this site every single day working to get this project up and running? Why is the geotechnical assessment taking so long? And why isn't there even a final design?
Spirit of Tasmania 4 is expected to leave its temporary berth in Scotland in May and reach Tasmania by July. However, it's still not known where it will be stored once it arrives here. As the unofficial federal election campaign continues, the Liberal Party is promising Hadspen residents a safer Meander Valley road, pledging $3.3 million alongside $500,000 from the local council to install a roundabout, bus stops and pedestrian crossings on the busy road.
Quite often the kids actually have to cross this road to get to the homes up here. So by doing that, it'll actually make it a lot safer for those young people.
It means so much for the community, it means so much for safety and for our kids, and I cannot welcome this investment enough.
It will also help serve 300 new homes approved for the area. Allegations of unreported deaths and falsified death certificates at Launceston General Hospital will be looked into by Tasmania's Integrity Commission. The Greens referring the claims made by a nurse under parliamentary privilege last year for investigation. It follows revelations police won't be pursuing criminal charges against the doctor involved, despite an internal investigation finding the law was breached. 9 Tasmanian families impacted by the devastating reality of cancer have been treated to a weekend away in Port Arthur. Camp Quality setting out to improve the lives of patients and their families, giving them a chance to spend some quality time together.
In 2021, Belinda Howard was diagnosed with breast cancer. Her family right beside her to this day.
While we were going through treatment, everything was very difficult. And when Camp Quality came on board, they offered to come out on family outings. We've been to Bruny Island.
Camp Quality, a children's cancer charity, put on around 5 special trips a year for children and adults who've been handed the devastating diagnosis.
Having some time away with full families, just to give kids a break, get to meet other families and experience and have some fun.
The chosen destination for this trip, the Port Arthur Historical Site.
We went on a cruise and it was quite fun. There's lovely volunteers that come help you and you get to do some fun activities.
Families getting out on the water and exploring the historical landmark today. Last year, the organisation helped support 12,000 people impacted by cancer, 700 volunteers helping run tours like this one nationwide. But wherever the camp goes next, the conversation that follows remains the most important part.
It's great just to sit down and talk to other families, and we don't necessarily talk about our own journeys, but we just know what that experience is like having chemo or radiation and further treatment.
Ruby Cairns, 7 Tasmania News.
Cold wind and small choppy waves are further testing the mettle of 250 surf lifesavers competing in Penguin this weekend for the state championships. Representing clubs around Tasmania, it's a chance for some friendly rivalry, but also to make sure they're ready for anything in the real world.
This competition is designed to just to test their skills, so that if they do need to call upon those skills when they're on patrol, that they're ready to go.
Last year's champions Clifton Beach are once again leading the standings ahead of Burnie. And here's something you don't see around Tassie too often. A leatherback turtle swimming right up to a group of fishermen just off Lillico near Devonport. The curious reptile even poking its head up to say hello as it inspects the tinny before eventually turning around and swimming off. Turtle appearances aren't unheard of this far south, but they do typically prefer sticking to warmer waters. Thousands of first responders have descended on Hobart for Tasmania's largest multidiscipline sporting event. It's the 19th Australasian Police and Emergency Services Games, which will see competitors take part in more than 50 individual and team sports.
Just over 2,100 competitors. They've come from far and wide.
For the Cook Islands team, it's the camaraderie of the activity that inspired them to take part.
In addition to building those and strengthening those relationships, it's also about us getting outside of the Cook Islands, seeing what, in this case, Tasmania has to offer.
The Games will be running all week, with golf and hockey among the many events scheduled for tomorrow. From the picturesque beauty of the bluff to the fear-inducing hills behind, the top triathletes from Australia and New Zealand have swum, cycled and run their way around Devonport. The race's 40th edition living up to its rich history, providing plenty of memorable moments.
Down the home straight on Devonport's Bluff Road like a Saturday jog. You wouldn't know minutes earlier Rochelle Hill had just completed one of the more gruelling cycling courses in triathlon, or that just 12 months ago she returned from a 5-year break. In the end, the Queenslander holding off New South Wales's Lauren Kerwick in a sprint finish in the elite women's race.
I started daydreaming a little bit on the first and the second lap, but on that last lap I really had to switch on. I was really happy with my race. It all started off with a great swim, so I haven't been making that front pack, so it was really a confidence boost to just come out of the swim with the front pack.
Days after his 21st birthday, it was Braden Mercer first out of the water in the elite men's. All smiles from the Kiwis on the bikes in a race with arduous uphill battles and hair-raising downhill sprints. The lead changing hands more than a few times. Aussie Brandon Copeland losing the race to pull on shoes to New Zealand's Saxon Morgan. He'd make it up where it matters though, sailing to an easy win in a race that did quite a number on the rest of the podium.
I mean, if you look back at the honour roll of this race, it's stacked with Aussie and Kiwi talent. So, mate, I'm absolutely over the moon to win. I won this race in 2018. It's now 2025, so I am starting to feel like one of the veterans.
Earlier today, locked in a back and forth on the bike leg with Victorian Claire Spicknell. By the time Aspen Anderson had pulled on the runners in the junior championships, there was more than daylight between her nearest competitor. The Queenslander cruising to a 30-second victory.
We got the girls moving on the bike, which was really nice. The hill 4 times was a bit of a sting, but we got it done, and I really liked the run, so I just worked into my strengths there. New
South Welshman Jack Caldwell leading the junior men's from the moment he rounded the first buoy. First out of the water, on the bike he'd be blitzed by Northwester Jack Woodbury, who needed to make up time, fastest on his home bitumen. Caldwell back in the lead by the finish line though.
Coming into the finishing chute, high fives, people, yelling. You can't compare that, the hours of training, and then to pull that off on race day is just amazing, yeah.
Woodbury finishing 4th overall. Nick Kelly, 7 Tasmania News.
After their nail-biting victory over Norwood, the Tasmanian Senior Talent Academy women have struggled to match a more experienced Port Melbourne borough. Emily Mifsud booting 2 of 3 Tasmania's 3 goals at UTAS Stadium as they succumbed to a 69-24 point loss in their second rep game of the series. Tasmania's openers have failed to fire on day 1 of their final match of the season. Jake Weatherald and Niv Radashikaran dismissed cheaply as the Tigers ambled to 2 for 44. Tim Ward turning things around alongside Caleb Jewell in the day-night shield clash at Ninja Stadium with New South Wales before Jordan Silk took over slogging duties. Ward making his half-century a short time ago. Tasmania 3 for 178 with plenty of cricket still to be played tonight.
Good evening. It was 26 in Hobart today, a little cooler in Launceston with 22, 21 in Devonport and Burnie 23. King Island, Grove and Ouse took out the state's high of 27 degrees. Flinders Island, St Helens and Friendly Beaches all 25. 22 at Low Head, Smithton and Lyweni 21 and 20 in Strawn. The satellite shows overcast conditions covering the majority of the state today. 4 millimetres fell in the gauge in Sorell. Mid to high level cloud is seen over coastal parts of South Australia, Tasmania and southern parts of Victoria. Tomorrow, a cold front will move over Tasmania and Victoria as a trough stretches from eastern Victoria to northern WA. Northwesterly winds up to 30 knots right across the state. Southwesterly swells building to 4 metres in western and southern waters. A severe weather warning has been issued for damaging winds and heavy rainfall for many parts of the state tomorrow. There is also a strong wind warning for all coastal waters and inland lakes. Showers easing in Hobart tomorrow, 22. 22 also in Richmond, although showery, much the same in Ouse with 21. Showers likely to ease in the north, 23 the top for Launceston, Devonport 21 and 20 in Deloraine. A somewhat wet and windy day in Burnie, 21. A cool early morning change on the way for Strawn, 20 and a windy day in Curry with 22 there. Showers for the east as well, St Helens, Swansea and Whitemark all expecting 24. Showers and small hail are likely to fall about the west and south on Monday. Light showers about the west continue on Tuesday, but fine elsewhere. And on Wednesday, light morning showers also around the west. To our national forecast now for Sunday. Cooling down in Adelaide tomorrow, 26 after an absolute scorcher today. A warm 37 degrees in Sydney, becoming windy in Canberra, 33 and 40 the maximum in Alice Springs. Cloudy in Hobart, 23 degrees. Cloudy also in Launceston with 21, but it's raining in Devonport with 19 degrees. If you're out and about tomorrow, Lou, you might need your brolly.
It certainly looks like that. Thank you for that, Kaya. And that's all your news for this Saturday evening. Thank you for joining us tonight. We will be back with you tomorrow. Good night.